Um, all right, we are recording. All right, so this is a special episode of the podcast here. This is Brian Skull, and I have two of my good friends with me, Matt and Ryan, and we're doing a podcast today that is sort of celebrating our new media group that we've formed together called Omni Lucid Media. We started a Facebook page for it, and really the purpose of it is to be sort of an aggregate for the things that we love to do. And we've been doing them on YouTube, or we've started doing them on YouTube with podcasts and video game streaming and art, time lapse and whatnot, and we thought that it would be really good to sort of come together and pool our collective forces, and so we get and out of that we have this. So my goal for doing something like this is really I think back about what it was like going through school and trying to figure out where I wanted to go as far as the art goes, and even in other areas of life. But and I remember there being just so very little resources at the time, because things weren't out there on the internet like they are now. And when I got done with school and everything that I had done, I told myself that I wanted to be the kind of person that I wish I had had when I was hungry for knowledge. And that's why like if you go to my website, you're going to see a lot of educational material that a lot of people out there are charging for. I'm putting it out there for free because for those very reasons. I just wanna help as many people as I can, and I want to do some good and have some good content that's on the internet as opposed to so much garbage that's on the internet. So with that said, I thought it was just awesome that my two really good friends of mine feel the exact same way about just trying to do the best that they can and trying to help people, and that's why we have Matt and Ryan here. So, Matt, how's it going?
Yeah, it's not too bad, man. It's unfortunate. This is supposed to be my bedtime. You day people, fucks. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, no, it's gone good. I'm ready to start and just put some ideas out there and get this rolling. I'm really excited.
Excellent. Yeah, man. It's awesome that you're doing it. So what are you doing then with this whole Omni Lucid Media thing?
Yeah. Mostly just gaming, YouTube gaming. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And when I did my first video, realizing how stupid easy it was, considering I just had to push a button on my controller.
It's like, holy shit.
And it's like it's there. But I was talking with someone a while ago to try to start something like this, and you were also briefly part of that. But me and him were talking about it even before then. But that fell through, I think, because it became apparent that not only ideologically we probably would have butt heads, but just what we wanted to do with it was going to be different.
Yeah.
More of a journalistic side instead of just the fun, enjoying side. And yeah, I mean, that would always weigh on my head, and it just, eventually I was like, well, fuck it, it's not going to happen, and all this stuff. And I've always was self-conscious about not having a lot of tech, and obviously, as your guys' stuff said, we're all kind of fucked up in the head. So, but yeah, no, to finally just fucking do it and not give a shit about what it sound like or what the quality is right away, just to do it and to test it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been really fun. I've been doing it for about a week now, banking episodes, and yeah, man, I love Let's Plays. I love games.
And you were the first gamer of the two of us, since going back when we were kids. And I'm proud to say that, like, you and I came up with the idea for Smash Brothers fucking
Yeah, we did.
10 years before it came out. Anyway, go
I don't
ahead.
care what anybody says. We talked about it in McDonald's on fucking service when we were Christians. I'm pretty sure that was what we were doing.
Yeah, like, wouldn't it be
So,
cool if they could all fight each other? Yeah, anyway.
yeah, that was what we did. Yeah, but no, like the last maybe 10 or so years, maybe 8 years. I don't want to think about how long it's been since the YouTube gaming sphere has started, where people were just, you could just, if you didn't couldn't afford a game or weren't sure if you wanted to buy it, you could literally watch someone play the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
And some people just played the games without dialogue. Some people did commentary, and this giant spark of it, which is why there's a share button on the PS4 now anyway, is because of this stuff. And as soon as I started hearing podcasts about gaming and, all the people that used to write for the magazines, like EGM and that stuff, that industry tanked and they started to do their own thing. And that's where the spark of the gaming podcast and the YouTube stuff happened. And I was all in. Like, there was a point there where I was like, I don't know what TV is. I spend all my hours watching and listening to YouTube and podcasts.
Oh, same
So
here.
it was very, very inspirational. And I'm glad that I finally started doing it. And we all came together around the same time to support each other and start this, man. It's really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that leads us to Ryan. How's it going, buddy?
Going good. So
did you come up with any games when you were gone?
The Blackheart Paladin podcast, and kind of the same thing. It was just nice that we all started this together like we have, because it I don't know, it's kind of helping that we're all there doing it together, helping each other out with each of our individual things. I'd been wanting to do something like this for quite a while, actually. I would say for at least 5 years or so. Basically, at least doing my own podcast, the Blackheart Paladin one, where I talk about like mental health and that. It all kind of started just from like watching the other veteran YouTube channels and things like that, where the guys would just be talking about, none of them really talk about mental health, but just seeing that they were out there doing that. And then,
so in case anybody doesn't know, sorry to interrupt, you were in the Army. Can you just briefly, if you'd like, let everybody know?
That I was in the Army.
Well, yeah, Ryan was in the Army, but no, you were.
And same.
Yeah. So I was a medic in the Army. Anybody that's already started watching probably hear that. And actually, I'm planning on doing a second intro video to Blackheart Paladin later on today. A little bit better after the depression has went away and that. But no. So yeah, I was a medic in the Army, and I was in the Army. I was only in for 4 years, so I only did one term of it. But I did deploy during that time, and I was in Iraq for 15 months. And during that time, saw some bad crap and realized, you really realize kind of like what the world is outside of America and that, and so. But anyway, I mean, I'll go into more of that stuff, on my own podcast and that, so we can not just sit there and dwell on it for me. But so I guess my main motivation as to why I was doing it, though, was that, like Brian said, I just wanted to really help people, and seemed like I haven't seen any other podcasts or anything like that. So the fact that now we can combine, I also, love playing video games as well. And then the fact that we all kind of have our own thing, and yet at the same time we all have similar interests, so that we can collaborate on stuff and then just put it out there to the world. And seems like a pretty good gig. And what's better than doing stuff with your friends?
Oh yeah.
So.
And the three of us all have some form of depression in one way or another. We're all a little broken in our own unique ways, but tying that into video games, I really feel like video games are far more important than people want to admit for depression. They've helped me tremendously. Like
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, did you get any help with
No,
with video games?
oh, like, at, at your darkest points, like the things that you love are the only things you have,
Yeah.
even though, I mean, and just immersing yourself in these worlds, and especially like growing up in our generation, like it really was the first RPG that really struck me, because like it's the first time I played a game with story and that you cared, and from there, man, that was my escape.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to plainly say that they've helped is an understatement.
Oh yeah, like little things like getting out like my little OCD ticks with inventory management. Like like shit like that is like Skyrim was a great example of that. Like you would never have thought that like okay, Skyrim is really helping me like get this OCD out of my system so I'm not doing something really weird in real life and I just have a really nice inventory.
Yeah, no, if we ever do a Minecraft or Terraria or any game like that, you motherfuckers better put the right shit in the right chest. I'm gonna spend time making signs, motherfuckers.
Get that shit organized. What about you, Ryan? Have you had some help with that?
Yeah, and I agree with Matt on the fact that it's the things that you like to do that definitely help with depression and that. But I like how you said it too, Brian, that people I don't think people realize the importance of video games, but not just video games, but just like entertainment outlets in general. Because as you were saying that, I'm sitting there thinking about how, the stories that you get, obviously in video games, but in just about anything. I mean, that's why recently I've really become, we'll just say I've become extremely addicted to anime and manga. And, most people I think still look at it as, oh, you're watching cartoons, you're reading cartoons. And it's one of those things where it's like, or even comic books. I mean, comic books is kind of the same way. They're not really, I don't know if shunned is the right word, but they don't have the same stereotype now that they've become big in media and Hollywood and all that. But the way that I look at it is, when we were kids, I would read comic books and people would make fun of that, like, oh, you're a nerd because you're reading comic books. And they never picked one up in their life to read it. And that's the thing. If you read comics or you watch anime or read manga or movies, video games, all of it, there's really good stories in there. I mean, just the stories that you get out of it and the ideas and the concepts that are there. It's funny because I was just thinking about it the other day where it's kind of, I was thinking about some of my favorite, comics and anime and that. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, if some of these writers would just get together with other people, they could really bring a lot more happiness to the world if people would just stop looking down on it, because you get those inspirational stories. I mean, as far as video games go, Final Fantasy 15, I mean, that one was just such an amazing game and brought up all sorts of emotions, and which that was, all about, mainly because of the brotherhood and the camaraderie of it and all that. And that always kind of ties in really closely with me, probably because of the Army, but also just because of our group of friends and that. But, that kind of stuff, it's like, those types of entertainment, they can bring out emotions in you if you actually give them a chance and, actually watch or play or whatever,
Anime touches on consistently. Manga, anime, it touches on subjects that you don't find as readily in America media as far as comic books and animated shows goes. That they continuously address, whatever problem you have in life, you can find a manga for it. There's so much out there, but it appeals to more adults, and not even adults, but like just such a wide array of people, far more that like that's one of the reasons why I love it is for like you go to a manga or you go to an anime and you're gonna get something that is as far as subject matter that you're probably not gonna find anywhere else, and that's what makes it so unique. And yeah, so when you talk about like really fucked up storylines, like they're not afraid to talk about really fucked up shit. And where else do you go for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yes.
Briefly, do you guys remember the first, like, I mean, it's easy to point to RPGs, but the first game that really like puts you back and go, this is something more than just a game. For me, I think it was the first Metal Gear Solid. Just like from the start.
Wait, for what system?
PS1.
PS1. Okay.
Yeah. You start as like a movie. He's coming in a little personal submarine, and the credits are going, and there's exposition, and then you're thinking, okay, this is going to be just a shooty game. And as you go, there's all these like concepts of like love on the battlefield, and are these people really bad? Like Snake, like not being a hero because he's basically a killer, and I think that hit me because I've never seen anything like that in a game, like storytelling like that.
Yeah. Oh man, for me it was, it was really with the Super Nintendo where it was Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was it where it was. I mean, video games were always this weird thing in my house because I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get a system, and when that time finally came, I mean, I always thought of video games as being something special, but when I realized that there was something to them that was just far more than I could ever imagine, like it just seemed like this magical thing, was with Chrono Trigger, where I played this game and it was like it was a whole nother world, and it completely took me away like nothing I'd ever seen before, and I was just like, wow, this is something new. I'm playing this game and I feel like I'm coming home, like it was a really strange feeling, but that was the first one for me.
Yeah, I think those were two when it comes to like Super Nintendo, but I remember Metal Gear was up there for the first, like, I guess you call it next gen, when it wasn't all like pixel art, and it felt like it was like you were playing a movie or something.
Yeah,
it felt like because they looked like real people.
We were living together. You talk about like being ahead of the YouTube thing. When that game came out, it was that game and Xenogears that was like the two big ones, and I remember like we would just take turns watching each other play those games, being like, holy shit, look at this. Especially with Metal Gear, it was like, wow, because there wasn't as much like fighting and leveling up as within Xenogears, but like Metal Gear, you're right. That was like you start that mission in the submarine, and you just the first dialogue that you have, and the cigarettes and the espionage and the whole thing. Yeah, it was something special.
Then like past that first area, when you get in the elevator and you take the gear off and you see him.
Yeah.
And it's great.
So what about you, Ryan?
I've been sitting here trying to think of like what it would be. And, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd say it was probably Final Fantasy VII.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of like what really had an impact on me, or something where I was just like, oh, I can't believe that just happened. And I think it was probably 7. When Aerith gets killed. It's just like, oh, holy shit, because I don't recall like ever a main character being killed in a video game.
Someone didn't play Chrono Trigger.
Well, I did play Chrono Trigger, just not until later.
I'm just kidding.
And that was the thing, like Final Fantasy VII, I actually, when I first played it, I didn't even play all the way through it, because I started playing where my friend Matt Barney, he was playing it, and I came over to his house one day and I was just watching him play, and then so I was playing off of his save. So I didn't really know a lot of what was going on for the entire game, but I had played up to the point where she gets killed, and I had played enough where I was just like, oh, like, holy shit. They, because at that point it was like, oh, like, this is his love interest basically, and, oh, she just gets killed. But it wasn't just like the typical, hey, your story starts because your girlfriend got killed and now you're going to go beat the Empire. It was like, she was a playable character. So possibly that. Otherwise, it definitely would have been, I would say, one of the Final Fantasies. Although I do remember I can't remember the game that well, but I do remember that when I played Legend of Dragoon, that there were definitely some moments in that game where like there was some self-sacrifice stuff happening from the heroes, and it was just like, wow, like that's really just like, okay, that's pretty powerful stuff. But it always seems Final Fantasy. It always seems to be the Final Fantasy games that really trigger the most emotion out of me. Because I think like Final Fantasy X was the first video game that ever got me to like actually cry because it like was just that emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and made more so by the fact that you're actually playing these characters. You know, it feels far more like what happens when you're reading. You become these characters, and that's one of the reasons why I think that like you're never going to get away from games where they drop you in as a character already made. Because not everybody wants to make their own character. And some of the strongest stories I've played have been ones where here's this character. This is who they are. You're going to play them. You know, and much similar to like a book where you don't fucking make your own character into the book, right? But it's still enticing. And so there's always going to be a want for that and always an opportunity to tell really powerful stories with that. And I'm wondering if it's easier to have a more powerful story with that way or with creating a character, because I've yet to be moved by a game to that extent by a character that I made in like except for like with Mass Effect has been the closest one, but even that was like they really
that was still they already gave you your character
exactly.
You just design what they look like.
Yeah. So that's as close as it's gotten, but I've yet to have that kind of experience with a game where it's like you're starting from scratch making something with a complete new skin. It's you know, I'm trying to think.
Your choice, Brian. That's why Chrono Trigger is the best RPG ever, because Chrono was a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
And you still, like, when he dies, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. You're like,
and then you're like, okay, game over. Oh, it's not. To have that much character for someone that you're playing that doesn't speak, and his character is drawn out by the other character. Yeah, Chrono's oh my god.
Yeah, I need to replay that one. I think I was telling you guys that I really need to try and get that SNES Classic I didn't care as much about getting the NES Classic, but that one it's just got so many good games on it. But the thing that I was going to say, Brian, I think it's funny how you were talking about, you know, like with books and that, like characters already made. It made me actually remember a book I was reading a while back now, like years ago, and it was a book called Gates of Fire, and it was about the 300 and Thermopylae and that. And I remember reading that book, and I already knew the story, so I already know that they all die. And as I'm reading this book, I'm reading about the characters, and I liked the characters so much that I remember I was basically like in my head, like pleading, like, oh, please, like, let them live. Like, I know they're supposed to die, but maybe these, you know, like, I was coming up with all these scenarios because I liked the characters so much that I wanted them to somehow survive, like that they snuck off or that they left or whatever. And the whole time I'm reading this book, I'm just like, God, you're going to die. You're going to die. It's like, come on, come up with a way, you know, and yeah. But it's like books or stories like that, you know, like they're that powerful, especially that. Like I knew the outcome, and I'm like trying to think up any scenario whatsoever that would save these characters because I know they're supposed to die and I don't want them to.
Gates of Fire is a book that if you like 300, you gotta read. You're gonna read that book and you're gonna be mad they made 300 the movie because it just does it. It's the movie they should have made. For as much as I think like 300 had some amazing cinematography and like an art design, there's so many stills in that movie that could be a painting. Despite that, they should have made Gates of Fire because what a fucking awesome book. He just gets into their heads and like he did a lot of historical research and it really shows. Yeah, like you said, you fall in love with these characters. You don't want them to die, even though you know the end story. But not only about the characters, but little things culturally. really unique qualities about each of the characters that ties into the historical research. And I mean, that just fucking gets me going, because I just personally with the paintings, that's kind of how I work. You know, I do historical research and then I tailor something sort of around that, and it's done masterfully in that book. So
Yeah, I mean, from what I recall, and again, it's been years since I read it, but I know, like you said, like just because of the history of it that they show you in that book, because I remember that early on in the book they're talking about their training, and they're talking about like from a very young age, like I don't even think they were teenagers. I think they start training when they're like 5 or 8 years old or something really young.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they're doing the I forgot what the name of the formation is, but basically they're doing like the shield wall, but they're doing the push.
Phalanx.
Is it the phalanx where they're pushing out?
I think so.
Basically,
Maybe.
so basically they have like all these 8-year-old boys or 10-year-old boys, and they all get a shield, and then they're all pressing their shields up against each other's backs.
yeah. It's
and they're
called
trying
tree fucking.
Yeah,
It's
they're
the
trying
original
to
term of the fuck.
Yeah, they're trying to push through a tree. Like that's
Yeah.
just how they're training. And he goes through the training
Oh,
more, but it's kind
gotcha.
of like that thing where you're like, man, he's trained so hard. He's perfected being this warrior. He's done so much, and then it's like, no, how can he die? No, he's done so much. He's worked so hard. I don't want him to lose. And you know, but obviously he still loses because everybody knows that story.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's again. You think about Rogue One did the same thing to switch to like sci-fi.
Oh,
God, yeah.
that was
Star Wars. It's like they talk about what happens in the first movie to those guys, and when they first heard they were going to make a movie about them, I'm like, yeah, they die. Why do you need to make a movie? And then it was like the best Star Wars to ever come out ever.
that
I liked it better than 7.
Yes, I've been waiting for that kind of Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi. It was so great.
I definitely did the same thing with that one too. When it was at the end, and you know, you're just watching the entire
And you're just
team
like,
get
it's
taken out.
happening. Yeah, it's happening.
And then finally at the end, it's like I can't remember her name, but like the girl and the guy, after they set they do the whole thing with the satellite or whatever. And same exact thing. Like in my head, I'm like pleading with it, like, come on, like show an escape pod shoot away from the planet at the last second. Something.
Give me hope.
Yeah, like something. Make it so they live. You know, they said that they all died, but maybe they just went out to Dagobah and they're just chilling with Yoda. I don't know.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. People react real funny when you don't give them some hope like that. We kind of like that shit, but I think that's because we're kind of morbid. There are people who are genuinely pissed that they got no hope by the end of that movie. Like they said, just like you said, Matt, like what's the fucking point? They watched this movie and they were just angry. Like I left and I felt sad and like,
no, but it's like
well, it's art, bitch.
The point was that the Death Star plans was the New Hope.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why the first movie's called The New Hope.
It just made
That's
me
the
feel
point.
I had sad feelings. It's like,
And then like you go from sadness to badassery as Darth Vader. Apparently it's Jason, and he's a horror movie villain. That last scene, you're like, oh my god.
yeah, there's a fine line with paying homage to Frankenstein and being an actual horror movie villain, and they're riding it.
That last scene was I tell people that because I have a few friends at work that are older that haven't seen any of the new ones. I'm like, you have not seen Badass Vader until you go see the last 5 minutes of Rogue One.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a side. Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of getting back to like what we started like with the the stories and things that they go over in media and movies and all that. So we were talking about how we had all seen. Well, I think myself most recently had seen the new Spiderman Homecoming.
Yes.
And there was actually a scene in there where he's talking to Vulture, and I was just like, holy shit! Like, see, these writers, they're talking about real world shit that's happening, and all I could think is, I wonder how many people will actually put that together, because I feel like some people, they just don't listen to what's being said. But Vulture, he makes the comment of how the everyday man he's basically talking about how like middle class and lower class people in society today, and how like all the rich are working off the backs of the poor. Because he makes the comment of, you know, they go out there and they have their wars and they make their messes, and then we the little people are the ones that clean up after them. We're the ones that fix everything after they have their wars and they destroy everything. And when he said that line, I remember I was just like, wow, like it was just like one of those moving moments where it's like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about, you know, the writer.
Yeah, that's why I liked Vulture so much, because he wasn't a mustache twirling villain. Like, there was a reason he was doing it, and they set it up in the beginning.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh man, okay, yeah, this is. Of course, people would hate Tony Stark. Of course, oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah, so Matt is our resident Spider-Man expert.
Hello.
What's your take on the new Spidey movie?
Again, I will preface these conversations with, I am Spider-Man biased.
Completely. If it has him in it, you love it, even if it sucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even if it sucks and it's not that good of a thing, I enjoy the Spider-Man. But this new one, I think the last two, the amazing ones with
Garfield.
Wow. Garfield, yeah. They tried to do something a little too much, and I think if you look into what happened, again, the studio just likes to fuck things, and especially in that second one, like the editing was off, and they were trying to do too many things. And I did like those movies because of the tone was more into Ultimate Comics, which I loved. But this new one, they did, because everyone's like, well, there's been 3 reboots in like 6 years or 9 years or something, right?
No more origins.
Not that long a time, yeah. And what they did brilliantly with this one was to introduce him in that. Paramount and Marvel making that deal was the best thing that could have ever happened for Spider-Man. Because putting him in Civil War first, and he's already Spider-Man, and he just shows up, and it was great, because we don't need any more origins. We don't need to see Uncle Ben die a 3rd time.
Yeah, we all know. We don't. Yeah.
And I love that they actually cast someone that's kind of a teenager still, like he was like 18, 19, and yeah, man, and like
it felt like high school. I mean, it felt like high school more so than the other ones.
You could tell that, like most of the extras and other students in the background, they looked like teenagers because they most likely were. Especially all of Liz's friends. Like, oh, those people look like teenagers. That's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that. Even though I'm a big fan of the classics, you know, like Green Goblin and stuff, they didn't do any of that stuff that any of the other movies did.
Yeah.
None of the same villains, none of the same characters except for Peter and May, obviously. Yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was exciting. It was great. I'm so happy with it.
Just like how Daredevil did justice to the Kingpin.
The Netflix Daredevil.
Yeah, where like you finally have this bad guy that like is no longer this stereotypical with all the tropes that you're used to, you know. Vulture was like that, you know. I mean, of course, with
and Michael Keaton.
Of course, he's fucking awesome, and he did that movie before,
Birdman.
That was like a really weird but really good movie, kind of just like a nod to the acting industry. It was a movie for actors or for performance artists, but it was still a good movie. And like after I saw that movie, I was like, man, he could be really good jumping back into the superhero world, and because he's always had that sort of sci-fi fantasy sort of interest, and he did I thought he did a good Batman. It was everything else in those movies that sucked, but Michael Keaton did a solid performance as being a really thoughtful kind of like mid-career Batman. But as the Vulture, yeah, he's just a fantastic actor, and to see him do something like that was a lot of fun, and to do it well too. So
and before shooting it to Ryan, because he's the one that's most fresh, I want to say that Easter eggs on fucking point throughout the whole fucking movie.
Yeah,
for those of us that know.
Such as?
Well, I mean,
hang on. This is where you should probably say spoilers, in case.
Spoilers.
Spoilers ahead, everyone that may listen.
Okay, it's been a while. Let me see if I can go through aside from his friend Ned, who the most prominent Ned in the comic books is Ned Leeds, who was the first Hobgoblin. So we don't know if they're gonna turn that little fat guy into Hobgoblin, but he's also very much like Genki, who is Miles Morales, Spider-Man's best friend. So they kind of like put them two together. Fucking the school newscast. The two anchors. One of them was Betty Brant, who is most famous for working at the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
And the other kid, I don't remember his name, but he's a character too. I just don't remember him. The debate team, one of the characters was named Cindy. More recently, there's a character named Cindy Moon, who is the character known as Silk. She was genetically modified with spider powers and like in the comics, kept in like a solitary room for most of her life and recently came out. Let's see what else. The principal of the school is the same actor and also grandson of the character he played in Captain America: The First Avenger. He was one of the Howling Commandos. So in his office, you see his grandfather's picture and medals and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that tie to Cap. Trying to think. You go ahead, Ryan. I'll try to think if I remember anymore.
Yeah, no. So that was actually, I was going to say that was actually one of the things that I liked was the subtle nods that they were kind of getting the Sinister Six in there with, Vulture, and then they had Electro. Even though they never called him Electro, they just kept. He had the padded yellow sleeves.
Oh no, Shocker. He called him Shocker.
Sorry, Shocker.
Shocker's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
the name. Both of those guys were actually Shockers in the comics, and they actually did use the name, but they made fun of it.
That was another one. I was surprised that I didn't know that Tom Hardy was in there, and then I was.
No, that's not Tom Hardy.
That wasn't Tom Hardy?
No, he's a guy that looks like him. Yeah, that wasn't Tom Hardy.
Oh, wow. He really looks like him then, because I thought I was so shocked to see him in there. I was like, how is his name not on this? And then he's such a minor character.
That wasn't Tom Hardy, no.
So yeah, I don't remember if did they ever actually call him Shocker in there? They keep saying like, oh, like the Shocker and all
the not Tom Hardy actually came up with the name, and
okay,
like that's why Vulture was pissing him. It's like, what are you, a fucking wrestler?
Yeah.
And then when he gets killed, he throws a guy, and I was like, I guess you're the Shocker now. So
yeah. So and then the other one, which was even more subtle nod, was Mac Gargan, who is Scorpion, which he did have the Scorpion tattoo on his neck. So I think they were trying to help anybody along that didn't recognize the name. But that was another one where they already had Mac Gargan in there as well. So they already got 3 out of the Sinister Six. So not a bad start. And let's see, as far as Easter eggs, actually, I was going to ask you, Matt, because I knew you would know, and I didn't know what it was, but the suit that Tony offers him at the end, is that the Spider-Man 3000 suit, or what suit is that? That's
a updated Iron Spider.
Oh, okay.
From Civil War, the first Civil War. The comic book Civil War, not the movie Civil War.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And he's probably going to rock that in Infinity War.
It's sexy. It's a sexy costume.
Cool, but no, as the movie as a whole, I did like it. I feel like it was maybe overhyped for me because I didn't end up liking it as much as I thought I would, which I know probably sounds like blasphemy because it was such an awesome movie. It really was. And I loved that they were doing the web cartridges, and that he was working through it. That was definitely cool to see. Yeah, I mean, he was acting like teenage Spider-Man. Like, I mean, even his responses and how he was acting about different things that were happening, he was acting like a teenager. He wasn't acting like this battle-hardened hero that's been around for years and all that. So that was definitely cool to see that. And like you said, Michael Keaton as Vulture was just amazing. And he even made it you kind of wanted to root for Vulture even a little bit too, because like you said, he had a reason for doing it, which he had it was a good reason for doing it.
The Liz Allen twist.
Yeah, I mean, he was just trying to provide for his family and all that.
He got
He's
screwed.
not
Tony
complete-
Stark and the government screwed him.
Yeah, he's not a complete bad guy. I mean, he's not like bad to the core.
He
But-
didn't mean to kill Shocker 1. That was but he didn't give a shit. He was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. I think at that point he had been in the business so long. But I mean, really, if you look at what he was doing, the only reason he became Vulture was because he just wanted to continue doing his job and making money for his family. And when the government took that away, he just continued doing it in an illegal way.
Yeah.
And
so really the movie documents really well what happens when robots take our jobs.
if Tony Stark's the robot.
Oh yeah, well yeah, right. I mean that's what would be what happened. You get this big corporation coming in, and he's got all the tech, and you're out of work. And what else can you do? You got to fight robots with robots, right?
Okay. A few more things. The Shocker Gauntlet was modified from Crossbones' gear from Civil War.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. The artificial intelligence voice in his Spider-Man suit was Jennifer Connelly, who played Betty in the Edward Norton Hulk.
Yep.
Okay.
And is also married to the guy that does Vision. So that's a little outside of universe continuity. I think that's it.
I feel like there was another one that I noticed, but I can't. Now I'm missing it. Go ahead.
When he gets buried by the rubble, that is a direct scene from The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 33.
Yes.
Which was one of the most amazing panels in the history of Spider-Man comics ever.
Well, who did that? Why am I thinking McFarlane? I'm thinking of something
No,
else.
no.
Though. Who?
Shit, I gotta look it up.
Yeah,
but
I remember when I saw that, when that happened, I was like, "Holy shit!" Which was a really good moment for the character too. Because he's super strong.
He just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
That was one. I remember thinking that even as I was watching that, how if you look into the Spider-Man character, they actually say that he's one of the most powerful superhumans or metahumans in the Marvel universe. And he just doesn't know it, which is always, it's just funny to think that, little tiny Peter Parker Spider-Man is like this super strong, because he was outclassing, I can't remember. I really wish that I could remember the article that I saw or whatever, but like he was outclassing a lot of people you wouldn't expect him to. Like, I almost want to say like he outclassed Thor on strength, but I could be wrong on Thor. But there were definitely other like,
it's the same concept
guy.
as Ant-Man strength.
And what's that?
Yeah, it's the same concept as like an Ant-Man strength, where he's like the strength is proportionate.
Yeah.
I've seen him classed under the Hulk, just under the Hulk, as far as strength goes. But I don't know how accurate that.
The issue was done by written by Stan Lee, and Steve Ditko, the man that created the fucking character, was the penciler. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking maybe it had been redone.
It might have been, but two more quick ones. The guy that made the Vulture's tech, they never mentioned his comic book name, but that was the Tinkerer.
Nice.
Phineas something. And,
I think they do say something like, "Are you done tinkering around with that?" I think Michael Keaton says something like that to him.
What did you guys think of Indian rich guy Flash Thompson?
Not the greatest.
It was one of those things. What I thought was weird about that, kind of getting into everybody's hated identity politics things. But I was thinking it's like, okay, so it's like they made Flash Thompson this Indian guy, which I don't care that he's Indian, but they turned.
Yeah, I didn't care about any of the race stuff.
But they turned him into, like, instead of him being a physical bully, they turned him into like the verbal bully that like basically the online, like, hey, I'm just going to make fun of you and until you hurt yourself, because I'm just going to keep calling you bad names and all this. And I thought it was weird, because I'm like, so you guys are trying to get like the racial diversity, because clearly you're worried about people like getting mad at you for not being racially diverse enough. But at the same time, you're showing them that, hey, here's this bully, and it was almost kind of like, hey, look, it's okay to verbally abuse people.
Yeah, the actor, it was like he read a book on how to be a bully. Like he wasn't, he didn't actually like I didn't get the sense at any point that he was an actual bully. It was like he was going through the motions. So I was more than anything, I could give a fuck about what color this guy is. I just didn't think it was acted all that well, and that might not be the actor's fault. It might have just been there's so many elements to making a movie. Yeah, that might just be a direction aspect, or the script, or who knows. But I wasn't convinced of him being a bully. Like not at all.
Well, and especially if you're considering that he's supposed to be Flash Thompson, it's like,
exactly.
Okay, not only is it he's not like the big jock type, and which they always kind of portray Flash as like the big, strong, dumb jock, but now not only is he not like the dumb jock, he's on the freaking debate team, or not debate team. What were they?
Yeah, they're the debate team. Yeah. They're all on the same team.
Debate? Okay, yeah. So he's on this team, and it's like, wait a minute. It's like, okay, so now, you always kind of put like, oh, Flash is being mean to Peter because he thinks Peter's a nerd and he's the big jock, and that's just the way things go. But now it's like, oh, they're on the same team together, and yet he's still like calling him a nerd and making fun of him, and it's like, yeah, but Flash, you do all the exact same activities that Peter does.
Exactly. And there's no difference here. Like,
and it's not like it's not like there's a huge, if you're getting into the whole body type of traditionally Flash was the big muscly dude, and Peter was always the little scrawny kid. It's like, yeah, Flash is like the same size as Peter. And if you figure in that Peter's in shape because he is Spider-Man, like he's definitely got Flash way outclassed. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm the same way. I could care less that it's an Indian guy. I don't, for the most part, I don't mind when they switch out characters in that. And then like they did the little,
they're acted well. I don't care.
Well, they did the little MJ nod at the end too. The girl that was always just kind of giving everybody shit.
She stole every scene. I loved her.
Oh yeah, it was funny.
She was great.
No,
that's where
the size contrast. The size contrast is important to note as far as the bully goes, because of how powerful Spider-Man was. So the playing around with the contrast, you have this huge guy who everyone would look at and automatically think like he's strong, bullying this little kid who then gets this power, but then has to still sort of
pretend like he's not.
Pretend like he's being bullied. And so that sort of contrast of power, that like, okay, so where does real power lie, right? It's not always within the thing that you think is going to be the most powerful. And I always thought that was a really good sort of an analogy that was under the not outright spoken in like the comic books that I really appreciated. And they kind of did away with that with the movie.
Well, they showed a little bit of that when he was doing all those sit-ups, and the guy comes and goes, "Hey, then you look good, Parker." And he's like, "Oh shit, I need to stop."
Yeah, because he had stopped paying attention to what he was doing. He was just doing them.
The caveat to Flash, I would argue that I agree for the most part, but this was a technical science school.
So there was he could have been big. He could have been like the size contrast could have still been there.
I think the point was to make him, like Ryan said, an intellectual bully. And the only thing that, because in my head now, recently, Flash Thompson was, in the comics, he went off to he enlisted and got his legs blown off. And
because he's the new Venom.
He's not anymore, but he was Agent Venom. So I don't know how they're going to do that if they decide to go that route.
They're doing a Venom movie. There's no way there's going to be some crossover with that.
That's complicated.
Yeah.
Because of the studios. Yeah. But no, Tom Hardy's going to be Venom, by the way.
Yes.
Actual Tom Hardy, not look-alike Tom Hardy.
Yeah, actual Tom Hardy is going to be Eddie Brock.
Such a good actor. Tom Hardy's awesome.
And,
I love Tom Hardy.
I think I think I was going to say something else, but I think that's it for the
Easter eggs.
The Easter eggs and my thoughts on it. Aside from just amazing.
That was actually one, and you might know, Matt. Is Liz someone important in the Spider-Man comics? That's when I was watching. I was like, I don't remember him ever having a Liz love interest.
Liz Allen was a high school girlfriend back in the day. Yeah.
Before Gwen Stacy.
Before Gwen Stacy, before Mary Jane. Yeah.
Okay.
So
in the Ultimate verse, she was a mutant, but that was Ultimate Comics. But yeah, no, Liz Allen was definitely in the comics for sure, old school. That's why I love this movie with the direction they did, because it's like they didn't do Green Goblin or Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy or Harry or any of those things. They went kind of deep cuts.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, she wasn't black in the comics, so God.
Yeah. Okay. No.
No. That's
Speaking
the
of
casting was great.
comic books, what do you read, Matt?
That's, you realize my list is huge, right?
Well, pick one of them that's good then.
Okay, fucking, I got a bunch here. Like, aside from my regulars, like, everybody should be reading Rebirth stuff. If you like any DC character, most likely it's being written really good right now. Whether it's Superman or Batman or Nightwing, Titan, Flash, it's all, even the ones that I don't read, like Wonder Woman and stuff like that, I heard it's apparently all very well written right now.
Nice.
So look online for when a story arc is going to start or end, and jump in if you're interested. I have the new Wildstorm reboot. It's on my unread stack. Issue 1 was great. Fucking, I don't know. I go read comics. Fuck.
He's got too many to list.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
The Marvel has toned down its SJW shit. So a lot of those books are canceled, thank God. But
I knew that was coming. Knew it.
If you were a fan of Logan, the current Wolverine is the little girl who's not a little girl. That book is solid. And if you're excited for the Defenders, the new Defenders series is really good too. They're only on issue 4, so you can pick those up. And each of them have their own books, which are all good as well.
Excellent. Ryan, I know you're reading manga, man. What are you doing?
Nerd.
So I'm actually right now, because Fairy Tail ended and I finished that up. Finished reading that manga. So then I went back to read Hiro Mashima's first manga, which is called Rave Master.
I remember that Cartoon Network shit.
And and that's I haven't seen the cartoon of it. I know there is one, and that's the thing. I don't know if it was actually a cartoon or if it's a legitimate anime.
It was anime.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'd imagine it's an anime, but
I never watched it, but it was on Cartoon Network.
So,
yeah,
it's called Ram Master. What's it called?
Rave
Master.
Rave
Ram. Okay, Rave. What's it about?
So far, what it's about, and I've only read the first manga. There's a lot of characters that are similar to fairy tale characters. So, like, the main character is Haru, which is a lot. They always say that it's Natsu was a big nod to him, but basically he's on this island, and an old man shows up, and this kid lives. It's just him and his sister living in a house, and he doesn't know he just knows that his mom was killed, and he doesn't know who his dad was. And this old man shows up in the bed, and right when he shows up, these bad guys show up, and this little dog-looking thing, which is, if you watched or read any fairy tale, Plu, the dog, Lucy's, they call it a dog. He doesn't look like a dog. The thing with the horn for a nose.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Plu is in there, and his name is still Plu, and this dog apparently, or whatever, I'm going to keep calling it a dog because that's what they call it, but he controls the rave, and the rave is this item that basically makes it so that you have abilities to fight. And then the kid also gets a sword, where the sword apparently has multiple functions. Like, it can turn into different weapons depending on what you need from it, is what I'm getting so far. I've only seen it do one thing so far, but that's, again, I've only read the first manga, but so far it's starting off fairly decent. So
no, I'm looking at the shit. I'm like, I remember him now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never watched the show, but
yeah, I'll keep reading it, but there's so many things that I'm reading and watching right now, because I'm also trying to catch up on my comic collection. I've basically just been reading Titans because it's started off really cool. I am reading Batman. What's that?
The old Wally, yeah.
Yeah, with
the Ginger Wally is back.
Yes. Ginger Wally.
Oh, redheads.
But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to read.
Oh my God, yeah, so much shit. So, all right. Well, does anybody have anything else they would like to talk about or say or declare or?
Sorry, you cut off for me. What did you say?
Anything anyone else would like to say or state or declare or rant about?
Subscribe. Actually, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, our YouTube channels. Okay, so Matt, where can we find you, Matt?
Beard Plays. Yeah.
That's
my channel name.
On YouTube?
YouTube.
All
Yep,
right.
on the YouTubes. That's about it. I got I got Twitter and stuff, but I don't fucking use it, though. Don't bother. Okay. You won't find it because it's not my name.
All right. What about you, Ryan? Where can we find you?
Mine is just under Ryan Needers. It is Blackheart Paladin, but that's just the podcast name, and it'll show up.
You should spell your name there, kid.
If you just, well, give me a minute.
But if you need to look it up,
just put in Ryan Needers, you'll find the channel. So the last name is Nieders. You can also find the link on our Facebook, where you can find the links to any of them. And yeah.
So. All right. Well, I have a website, Brian Skull Art. I have Instagram, Brian Skull Art, and a Facebook page. Can you guess? Brian Skull Art. And consistency is good. And we also have the new Omni Lucid Media Facebook page and also YouTube at Brian Skull. So not art for YouTube, because I happened to get in on a YouTube account a long time ago, and I just never used it until recently. So yeah, you can find me on all the things and all of us everywhere. Like, share,
subscribe,
blah 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 blah. One of the things that you can do. A lot of people ask for donations for shit like this, and normally I hate it, but for something like this, like say if you wanted to donate, I offer prints of my work, for instance, through my website. So if you were thinking you actually wanted something for your money, and later on down the road we might be looking into, like, you know, something cool with merch as far as the Omni Lucid Media, just to give people, because it's really easy to do now, and it put something in your hands, and you say, like, you can get something for your money, and at the same time it helps. So more stuff is coming. We're making content. We have all sorts of awesome plans down the road. So we're just gonna keep making stuff and keep posting it, and thank you for listening. And so this is Brian Skull signing off. And thank you for joining. And say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.